Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mighty Matt podcast. I'm Matt Sterling, your host, and man, we got another good one. I'm honored to have Pete Denman as my guest today. Pete has a prolific career in design, predominantly at Intel, where he most famously worked with Stephen Hawking to help improve his communication speed. I am so honored to have Pete with us. How are you doing, buddy?
Not bad. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, I like to kick these off. Instead of asking people what happened to you or why are you disabled, I like to say, when did you become mighty? And I think you have two stories to tell. So let us know when you became mighty.
Well, I guess that's an interest. I mean, now that you say it, I'm kind of reflecting back because I think that there was I have a hidden disability as well as a physical disability.
Yes.
My hidden disability is the thing that I think I've struggled with more than I have with my physical disability. And when did I become physically disabled? Was July the 20th, 1980, going almost 40 years ago now.
And what was the hidden disability?
I was at the confluence of the Willamette and the Columbia Rivers, playing frisbee with my lab. I had been out the night before. I got home late, came home,
Yep.
grabbed my lab, needed to go to get her exercise before work, took her down to the rivers, threw the frisbee out into the water. She couldn't find it. I decided to go and grab it for her. So I just stripped off my shirt and threw my hat on the ground and ran out into the water. And I was between knee high and waist high in water. And I was running in, and there was a tugboat going down the channel, and I dove through the wake as it was rolling in, and it threw me into the sand, and I broke my neck and ended up with a C4-5 quadriplegic.
My gosh. But even before that, you were dealing with some dyslexia. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think the dyslexia thing really destroyed my confidence and my ego and really drained me out. So if you look back at when we began to talk about dyslexia, or what they call word blindness, back right around 1900, a little before that, they began to talk about it, and that was about the time we started getting an education system in America. Now, fast forward into the 50s, people now begin to understand what it is. Now, go forward another couple decades. And when I was going into the first grade, this is when the U.S. government said, we think there's a thing called dyslexia.
Okay.
And we're not going to do a thing about it. We don't think that there's any way to treat it. And we're not even going to talk about it. And I got buried. When they repealed that, and they decided dyslexia is a thing, we need to deal with it on a wide level. That was repealed the same year I graduated high school. And so my entire school career, there was no recognition of dyslexia. Now, it's not to say that my parents didn't do something for me. In the 7th grade, they realized I was reading at a 3rd grade level and got me a tutor. But at that point, I pretty much had given up. Now, fast forward again, I broke my neck shortly after graduating high school.
Okay.
I think I'm a fairly bright guy, but I wasn't achieving anything in school. Now I was in a wheelchair, and no one expected anything from me except for me to breathe. This was before the ADA, so wheelchairs on the street weren't even something that you saw on a regular basis. I was just a kid that was now in a wheelchair, and you kind of close these guys on closet, you don't see them anymore for the rest of their lives. What happened with me during this time was I took advantage of that. No one didn't expect me to do anything. So when I started doing something, I started blowing people's hair back. I was like, you did what? You're going where? I started taking classes actually with my mom. She was a nurse, and she was trying to get me to do anything. Because I was just sort of locked up in the house. And so she started taking me to these art history classes. When I was and I went into my first art history class. I didn't take any of the tests. I was auditing the class. My mom was taking the class and the tests, and my teacher and I went out during a break while everybody else was taking the test. And he asked me a bunch of questions, and he said, "If you would have taken the test, you would have passed." And I said, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just gave you the test, and you did great." And I was like, okay. So I'm like, this is college. You can choose what you want. People are cool. There's no sort of agenda. You get to make your own pathway. This is interesting. And then I was hooked. Knowledge was my thing.
That's great. What brought you into the design world?
Well, I mean, I kind of have a knack for it. In fact, I don't know sometimes that I'm actually designing and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
There's a couple really great examples in my house. I painted the wall that I'm looking at right here 3 different times because it didn't quite seem right. And then at some point, it seemed perfect. I was like, okay, that's it. And I painted that wall and a few others. And then I put block colors on top of them, and it turned out to be really a nice color. And everybody was like, this works, you know. And then after living with it for about a year, I realized that what I had done was I painted it the color of the building outside the window. And it was exactly the color of the building outside the, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
exactly the color of the building. And so when you're looking out the window, it
Yeah.
actually makes it seamless. And so as you don't,
Oh, that's so cool.
oh, yeah, and there's different things, like, I grew this beard, and I just realized I think I have a lot of face. If I if
Right.
I if I don't have a beard, there's just a you know, from the top of my forehead to the bottom of my chin, that's a lot of face. And so I grew out a beard, and I was like, "This is working."
Sure.
And then but it doesn't work if I have a buttoned up shirt, and for some reason, I haven't been buttoning my shirt for the longest time, and then I realized I just made a vertical line down the center of myself, and that is design, but I
That's
was
so
doing it
cool.
subconsciously.
How did that move into the world of technology, your sense of design?
I've always been into technology. Technology has been my thing. I was a Commodore 64 kid.
Oh,
I
nice. Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
yeah, Crash 80s, you know, the TRS-80.
Yeah, yeah, from Tandy.
I did all of that when I was a kid. Ran my own. It was just kind of fun. It was our generation, kind of, you know, that was cool back then.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then when I was in my 20s, this is when the internet started, you know, and I was in design school, and they were backing up dump trucks full of cash to make websites. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I was living at a place called Myers Court, or Quad Inc., or Quadriplegics United Against Dependency. It's
Okay.
one of the oldest independent living facilities in the country, and is the blueprint for how they're run and operated around the world today. And I'm the chairman of the board of that organization now.
That's
But
great. And can you describe for somebody that might not know what an independent living facility is?
yeah, sure. So independent living facilities are places where someone with a disability like myself can go and live. It's an apartment, but it's also it's not a nursing home. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
It's a place where people can live and direct their own care. They have the key to their door. They can lock their own door. No one else can unlock their door. It's, you know, their home with help. And so that's what independent living is. They direct and manage their own care. People come in and help them, and we supply the people as being we run the organization.
that's great. And how do you find the people that could benefit from the home or independent living?
Well, I use it as a transitional stage, and I think a lot of people do. And so if you use it as a jumping off point, I mean, I don't live there anymore. I own
Yep,
my own home. And so
sure.
it's a space that is very flexible, but it's also a little bit restricting. And restricting in a way that you're not always going to get the same person every single time that
Oh, I see.
you need help. And so your care is a little bit, it's not as consistent.
Got it.
Mhm.
Got it. And then, so when you were designing the websites, is that what led you into Intel, or when did you make the jump into corporate America?
Well, I was working for about 7 years after college, freelance and doing other things. And then at some point, I saw a advertisement for a graphic designer at Intel Corporation. I was like, what do they need a graphic designer for? But I'll apply to that. And at the time, and this is when monster.com was a thing.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so I was on Monster, and I signed up for it, and I got a call back because I realized that no one was reading these. It was probably a computer reading this. And so I was
Right.
like, I'm just going to
And for the
reword.
kids out there, Monster is what Indeed and LinkedIn is now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was reading through it. I mean, this is old news now. At the time,
Sure.
everybody's like, that's genius. How did I not think of that? But, you know, in 2005, I was like, this was written by a computer. I'm going to write it like a computer and just regurgitate exactly what they had written. And as soon as
Sure.
I wrote it, I rewrote my resume just so that it read exactly like their job description. And I got a call back within a day. And then I gave them a physical resume, which was a tin box with a CD with all my work on it, and
Nice.
Magic 8 Ball inside of it as well. And when I got to Intel for my interview, there was a stack 2 inches thick of resumes and a tin box sitting on top. And
That's great.
so I got the job.
That's so cool. And
Mhm.
when you first started, what kind of things were you working on?
Well, it was really just GD stuff. It was, visual art. I think the very first thing I did right out of the gate was work on something for a Parkinson's device, which
Oh,
was
wow.
well, I did some Photoshop work. I did some manual. I remember pretty distinctly because I was there for a week and I got an award for it. I was like, I just drew a table and he gave me a plaque. Okay, this is weird. Okay.
Positive reinforcement. That's great. You had told me this story, but I want to hear it again because it is kind of funny how you ended up getting connected with Stephen Hawking.
Had been at Intel now for 5 or 6 years. I had already gone through 2 major layoffs,
Yep.
and so the first one was a year into my tenure, and that dissolved the first company or the first division I was in, the user-centered design group. Now, the user-centered design group disbanded, and a few of the people there went to digital health. I was one of those people.
Okay.
And when I went to digital health, got bought by GE, kind of a partnership between Intel and GE, and they went off and did their own thing. I had a
Yep.
choice to go with the new company or stay with Intel. Uh, so I went to the major part of Intel and started working for the labs where the R&D happens in the company. And this is when I began to really focus heavily into interaction and not just pure design, but really what is the person at the other end needing out of this? How is the interaction going to be playing out? When this part of the digital health got disbanded, I went to this big dinner with everybody, and there was a bunch of big wigs, and one of the big wigs I didn't realize was one, and I was sitting at his table, and he's eating clams and talking about his ducks. I remember that very distinctly for some reason, because he was eating my friend's clams off of her plate.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Anyway, as I was talking to Justin, and he's a character, he's just such a nice guy. He is like, "Well, I think you work for me now." And I'm like, "I do? Yeah." I got a note from Stephen Hawking the other day. Stephen said that his speaking rate has declined just dramatically. Can you help me speak faster? And so basically, he's like, you want to deal with this for me? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I think basically he saw the wheelchair. He's like, that looks like that. I think we should put those two things together
Right, right,
and,
right.
and make something happen there. And I was not unhappy about that. Not
Sure,
in the
that's great.
slightest. Yeah. But at the same time, I had been working on a new way to visualize data. And I had presented that to the team. It got a lot of really high recognition. I had gotten invited to speak about this visualization in Ireland at a big conference. And when I was there,
Wow.
I got the note from my boss that Stephen had said that it was a good time to come and see him. And I was already in Ireland, so I just decided to stay and go and see Stephen while I was there. And so I took a ferry, 2 trains, and then for a weekend.
Yeah, like, what was his setup? Is it like a castle, a lair? Like, where was Stephen Hawking set up?
Where was his place? Well, he was at the Mathematical Sciences Building in Cambridge, England. And so I spent quite a bit of time in Cambridge, but his home was a home that he had built himself.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was pretty close to city center, just off the backs of the college. They call that big open green area the backs.
Nice.
Apparently, the guy who wrote Comfortably Numb wrote
Oh,
it while laying in the middle of the backs one night.
nice. Yeah, you gotta get the Floyd out. So, were there any particularly interesting, adaptive devices in his house that most normal people wouldn't have?
Hmm. I mean, Stephen was, by the time that I met Stephen, he was fairly incapacitated. He
Yeah,
really couldn't move a whole lot. And so he was very dependent on other people.
sure.
His house was set up pretty well. The one thing that was a little odd, that really kind of stood out was Stephen did not like to ride in the handicapped vehicles that are typical in Europe. And
Okay.
so he had a Dodge Caravan, which was like, it was a left-hand drive Dodge Caravan, and that's what he drove.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dodge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. You've had a very long and prosperous career at Intel. How were you received as an employee there?
It was kind of an amazing career for me, honestly. My boss at one point, when I asked, well, I really shouldn't go to this thing because it's going to cost me extra money because I'm in a wheelchair and I have to fly different. I'm going to take extra people. It's going to cost more. It's like, your voice is the one I want in the room. Get a goddamn flight. And so that is kind of how they treated you. They were, they didn't see the disability as much as I think I felt like I'm exposed other places. I didn't
Yes,
feel like it there at all. Say pretty confidently that my disability didn't affect my work and the way that people
that's
saw my
great.
work.
That's great. I'd say the same thing for Time Inc., which is wonderful. When you can find a place like that where that it sort of embraces you and enables you to thrive. So I think that's
Mhm.
really cool. What advice would you give to someone that's out there that has a disability that's interested in getting into technology and design?
Oh my gosh. I mean, technology and design, this combination, that alchemy right there is what actually is the way that hard and soft is the way I think about it. I think you can combine those two skills in just about any form or function, and it's going to end up being strong for you. If you have a hard skill and a soft skill and you combine those together, you're going to come up with something magical.
Now, you've done some writing, and this is something I really appreciate because a lot of people talk about getting started and, having a career, but you and I are kind of at the same place where it's now time for the next chapter. So, as you transition into this next part of your life from the corporate world, you face some challenges. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's such a big topic.
Sure.
Number one, I'm dealing with my severance that I have to deal with and my 401k that I have to deal with. And all of this is predicated on the fact that I need assistance from the federal government. And the
Yeah.
federal government gives me an amount of money per month to take care of myself. And it's about $75,000 a year. And that money goes to help me get into bed, help me take care of my bowel and bladder needs, all the ADLs that I can't do myself. I can pretty
Sure.
much feed myself and motivate around and work, but I can't
Yep.
get myself in and out of bed and transport myself and take care of anything else. So I'm reliant on somebody all the time. Now to manage all of this money problems I'm having, they want to kick me off if I get too much money from any one of those things. Now, what do we need from society? Do we want people with disabilities to be out there working? And
Right.
what is the responsibility of our government and the people like you that are listening to this today to pay for I want to be able to pay for myself and I want to be able to contribute to society. And at the end of the day, the government themselves have said it's cheaper for the federal government for people to be working and contributing to society than it is for them not. So, it costs, when I'm working, it costs the federal government about $20,000 a year to take
Yep.
care of me. When I'm not working, it costs about $150,000.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I don't think gets enough attention and needs further thought and revision to these programs because, I was always passionate about getting help with education because, my education was paid for. And then since I've paid so much in federal tax that, it's 10 times what I received from the federal government. So we should be focusing on employment to get disabled candidates in jobs where they're working because A, they can be independent and B, they can pay taxes. But then once
Mhm.
those taxes are paid, they should be toward programs to help the disabled candidates, with your living issues that you have or any other health issues that are required for daily life. So I hope we can get some of those things revised. And I know you're working with Lex and some others to kind of push these issues forward.
I've got a coalition here in Oregon that we've been trying to battle SB or a bill. We put the bill in 3 times so far.
Yep. Well, I'm anything I can do to help, that I'm there for you. I want to make it a little bit lighter and see um, kind of what you do for fun. And now that you're going to have a little more extra time, where are you going to spend that time?
What do I do for honestly? I like to do design work for fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's what
have.
they say, right? Find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
I know exactly. I've got a million projects going on all the time. I've got a 3D printer to my left. I've got a drawer full of Arduino crap over here to build stuff with.
Nice.
I have a
What's
laser.
the last thing you printed with the 3D printer?
Gosh, the 3D printer. I made a phone case. The
Oh, nice.
3D printer is not as useful for me as my laser cutter. I use the laser cutter a lot. I use it.
Ooh, what does that do? Like custom cuts of paper or wood or what?
Yeah, cut wood, paper, plastic. I make all kinds of stuff off of
That's
it.
awesome. What's the last thing you made with that bad boy?
I made a gift for my boss who also is leaving the company.
Nice. Well, that's cool. That's
Uh-huh.
cool. The other thing I like to ask, because the answers are hilarious, is what's the most asked question you get from random strangers about your disability?
I think the one that drives me nuts the most is slow down. I'm going to give you a speeding ticket.
Oh my God.
I know.
And you're in an electric wheelchair, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mine is always, you should put an engine on that thing. You
Oh, is
know,
it?
yeah, enough.
Y-
There are
Yeah.
engines, and yeah, we don't need a speed limit.
I try to be gentle about it when I'm talking to people, but pointing out someone's disability, even though you're trying to be pithy about it, is still pointing out someone's disability.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. It's like
yeah,
pointing out somebody has a bad haircut or something, like, just let it
yeah,
go and talk about something else.
exactly. I mean, it's like you notice the difference.
Yeah,
Thanks.
right,
Appreciate it.
right. We know what you're looking at. So now you've lived in Portland for how long?
57 years.
57 years. So you above Fred Armisen can tell me, is Portlandia true?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah. It's completely 110% that weird.
Nice. I
Yeah,
need to spend more time there. I only went to a wedding there, but I did love it. I thought it was weird and cool.
yeah. I mean, I can talk about the Pacific Northwest for forever because it's like one of my favorite. I've traveled the world and I think Pacific Northwest is one of the most beautiful and it just feels like home to me. It's
Nice.
mossy, but
That raises a good question. What's your second favorite destination other than Portland?
second favorite destination. Anywhere in the Mediterranean.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
accessibility is okay there? It always seemed like a lot of stairs.
yeah, no, well, I mean, if you're going to talk about accessibility, then there's accessible cities and there's not. I think the most accessible city, the most freedom and the access that I've ever felt, and it just kind of hit me one time, just square in the face, was London.
Oh,
And the reason
nice.
and
I
the
have to
reason
agree. I love London. Yeah.
yeah. And I think the reason why for me is because I went out drinking with some friends one night and went to a bar and
Sure.
yeah, yeah. And it was the very first time that I didn't have to worry about how I was getting between point A and point B because
Nice.
every single black cab was wheelchair accessible.
That's so great.
I could flag down a car
Yep.
anywhere and go anywhere.
The first time I went to London, I was living in Manhattan and I was struggling every day trying to get cabs. Nothing was accessible. Then I get there and it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah. And then you go to
That's
Boston and you want to just put a gun in your mouth.
like most people in Boston, I would imagine. God. Okay, so I usually close every episode with the same question, which is if I were to clone you and there were two Pete Denmans sitting in front of me, what is the one question I would ask to reveal the real Pete Denman?
If there was a clone, that's a good question. I wouldn't know which one is the real Pete Denman. You're repeating me.
Repeat. But what's something about you that only you would know?
Only I would know. I try to be this. Maybe this is the probing question you want to know. I try to be myself. I try not to not to change my affect or my approach to people no matter who I'm talking to. So, and I try not to hide things. So there's not a whole lot of hidden. You could actually ask me anything. I will tell you.
That's great. That's a wonderful quality. Well, listen, Pete, I really appreciate the time. You are sort of a beacon for anybody out there looking to have a job where you can affect humanity, have some fun, and show the world what's possible with the disabled community. So it was such a great pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you the very best on the next chapter.
Thanks. I appreciate the time, and thank you. It was really a pleasure to talk to you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope you'll click like and subscribe so you can meet the mighty.